Clint Cosgrove, Rivals national recruiting analyst, here with a special guest today. We've got Pat Embleton, the Executive Director of Personnel and Recruiting for University of Illinois. Pat, thanks for coming on, man.
Clint, appreciate it, man.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure. I mean, we first met, and we'll talk about this in a second, about 4 coaches ago at University of Illinois, and you have been there through it all. I know your title's changed over the year. I'm sure the job has evolved as well. But just tell me, what has it been like being at Illinois, staying on through 4 head coaches, lots of transition? Not only has the job changed, but how is Coach Bielema maybe different?
It's well, I'll say this, Clint. My wife's happy first.
First and foremost.
Exactly. Even though we moved about 5 different times in our approaching 10 years here, it's been good just to stay in one place. I love this university. I'm very passionate about this community, and it's just been very fun to be around this university and seeing several cycles of classes come in and out and graduate and kind of impact society. So that's the main part. But to answer your question, Clint, Coach B has been unbelievable. He is one of the greatest head coaches I've ever worked for, just by his just in every day that is the same for him, right? There's nothing new. There's, what you see at the practice field to what you see on camera. He's the same guy through and through. And so he's just he's a joy to work for. I really love it.
No, that's incredible, because I guess a lot of people, I'm sure it's the same in any business, but sometimes you don't go to work for the same guy day in and day out in this coaching profession. And there's a lot to be said about knowing who you're showing up to work for every day. So that's incredible. I've heard great stories about working for Coach B. How about just your role? And I know when we first met, what was the title? You were
when we first met, I was a graduate assistant working in operations and recruiting.
Okay.
And then after my, I believe in fall of 14 spring of 14 was the first time I got a real title. And that was I was our director of student athlete development. So it was a title to work in recruiting, but also work alongside our current student athletes, just because I was pretty, 2 years out of college, or 3 years out of college at that point. So I had some similarities and could relate with them a little bit more. But then it transitioned a lot more into just day-to-day recruiting and recruiting operations in that sense. And I've always been in recruiting, I guess you could say, during my time here.
For sure. And I don't want to just throw this on you, but Coach Bielema coming from the league, and I know part of your role has evolved into, evaluating current roster and everything like that. Just tell me, I guess, the approach day to day when you're going through and looking at scholarship numbers and what you need to take. Obviously, you need to have certain numbers at certain positions, but it sounds like you guys have taken a very innovative approach to it. And you're really evaluating day in and day out, almost like the NFL does when you're coming, when it comes down to making these decisions. Can you just tell me about that day-to-day process, how that works?
Yeah. So, Clint, like a lot of what my job responsibility is now, it's a lot less film evaluation, even though I wish it was more. And, there's only 24 hours in a day, and I got to, we have to sleep as well. But we have a phenomenal recruiting staff. And so really, I oversee our recruiting staff, and our recruiting staff does a lot of the film evaluation for high school and portal players. And I focus on a lot of what our current roster is and what our current roster situation and needs are, along with Coach B. Him and I meet numerous times throughout the day and just talk about where we are on our roster and where we want to be in the future. And we've done a lot in a year and a half in terms of kind of instilling what we want our values to be in this program of tough, smart, dependable players. And so I think my day-to-day is really revolved around Coach B needs for recruiting. I meet with my staff a lot, usually in the morning, just to kind of give a rundown of what our day might look like or what our week might look like, what visitors are coming on campus, what high school coaches want to come to campus. And so that is, usually the morning part. I meet with our our portal person, Jay Kaiser, who's our director of college scouting, really, and do a lot involved in kind of the evaluations of who is in the portal, what they provide for our needs, what we need on our roster in terms of high school versus college players. And so it's fun because you're not only looking at what a player can provide athletically, but what he can provide socially, right? What he can provide academically. And so that's a big part of my job, is just to make sure that our roster's in good shape and who we're bringing in fits what we want to do, and not necessarily, how many stars they have next to their name or anything like that, but are they a good fit for our locker room, and are they a good fit for our classroom?
For sure. It's crazy because I talked with Coach B on signing day, and just listening to the message from the two of you. I mean, I love it. It's like, it's spot on. You guys are on the same page. And he talked, because we kind of talked about your approach to the transfer portal at the time. And, he said a lot of those same things about, like, and am I bringing in a guy who's setting a good example for these younger guys? You're not just taking guys because they can play football. You're trying to build a program. And so that's pretty cool to hear.
Yeah,
two different guys and months apart, and just the message is very consistent.
Right.
So kind of like going to work for the same guy every day. One thing that you did just touch on, and it was something that I really wanted to talk about, is, which kids are going to be on campus, which high school coaches want to come through. You guys have really, really, really made a big, emphasis on the state of Illinois. And I know Coach B is an Illinois guy. So that was important from him day one. I've always thought that if Illinois is going to be very successful, they need to make the state a priority. And you guys have. And there's a buzz about Illinois in the state of Illinois that there hasn't been in a while. You guys got a commitment from a big time player in Illinois, which is huge. I know you're on a number of other guys. But just tell me about your just the emphasis, like from day one when Coach B stepped in here, like it was obviously going to be a priority. Just tell me what it's been like, how the feedback from the high school coaches has been, and just the overall, feedback that you've received.
Yeah, Clint, I think not many people will say that COVID benefited you, right? But when Coach got here in January of 21, I think that us not being able to go on the road, and us, Coach putting together his staff of who we wanted, it really gave us a good sense, a foundation to build via Zoom, through the phone, and connect with high school coaches in the state, right? So we had some spring ball going on, but we weren't as busy as we were this past January, and through our time almost to June now. And so that benefited us because we were able to meet daily, develop a plan as to how we want to attack our state. And that was really one of the first things after Coach B and I sat down and he retained me, was
thank God.
Yeah, exactly. was going through, what he thought I knew about our issues in state. And so I just gave him my opinion about where I think we need to do better. And then I think he slept on it a little bit, and we developed a plan that we felt worked. It worked well. We signed double digits players in state this past signing class. And so, everybody's always going to recruit their home state. You have to, otherwise you're not going to be successful. Right. So I think that we put all 10 of our coaches assigned an area and in our state, and our coaches truly worked their butt off in terms of connecting with every area coach, high school coach in their area. And I know that has probably been said in past by other schools as well, but I feel that we probably talked to on the phone, via text, via email, about 90% of the coaches in the state, just through those first 3 months that we were on staff together, which was huge because a lot of them would say, hey, we haven't heard anybody, we haven't seen anybody, or we don't really have many players, but it's still so nice to hear, from our state school. And so that was big. And then I think part of working for Coach B, and like I had mentioned earlier, consistency is huge. And so it's not just a one-time deal, right? We put an emphasis on, weekly, when we're not in season, of, hey, let's make sure that we're touching base with our area coaches, your area coaches, just to see if they've got anybody new that's popped on in their conference or on their team or anything like that. And also just to see if they need anything from us. And, you fast forward to in the end of March, we had our high school coaches clinic here in Champaign, which was phenomenal. We had, I think, over 600 high school coaches, and
Wow.
they came down and visited. And, we did some stuff in our building, but it was hosted outside of our building, but we were very much involved in it. And it was great because all of our coaches were there and they spoke, but a lot of high school coaches felt a connection with us because we had already laid that groundwork of connecting, on a personal level with them.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. And people don't realize how much work that is. You talk about connecting with 90% of the coaches, which is probably almost all of them because of coaching changes and everything like that. And I know just from talking to Coach B, they were hearing from a full-time staff guy, from you. And I do feel, from being in Illinois, that's something that they wanted really bad. And so, it's just been really impressive to see that and the way it's evolved. And I'm sure it's going to pay dividends as you continue to do that. But I just know the feedback that I've had from coaches and players has been pretty cool. And being an Illinois guy, I was born in Champaign. I grew up around the program. So it's fun to see our own kids getting recruited by the in-state school again. So how about, let's hop into this, June official visits. You have a lot of them. You have a lot of big time players, both in-state, out-state coming in. How do you approach those? And then kind of how does Coach B lead the way in directing how you approach those weekends?
Yeah, we really started planning for June OVs back in February. After the second signing day, we kind of came up with a good number of who we wanted to come on campus in June. I was so accustomed to, in my previous head coaches, that we did a lot of official visits in December. And then I think really in June of 21, the first time that visits were allowed after COVID and all that, like the first time that I'd really done a big bulk visit in June. And we loved them. The weather's awesome, right? So if you guys have a warm weather
Florida guy,
it's a little bit easier, but I think that there's so much more you can do in Champaign-Urbana outside and all that stuff. So we'll use, anywhere from 20 to 30 visits in the month of June. And we'll always save some for the rest of the year. But I think our philosophy, Clint, is that like recruits recruit themselves. Our players are our best recruiters as well. And so the summertime, our players don't have as much on their plate with school and with the season that it allows them to spend more time with our recruits on campus. And then as we continue to get commits built during the month of June or prior to official visits, they also are our best recruiters, and they can help sell why they committed to this school and to the staff. And so that's one of the main things is why we transitioned to a big month in June. And I think it just gives us time to get our bulk of our class kind of committed before we start the season, so that our coaches can then focus in on coaching the best ball that they can for our current roster.
No question. It's just changed so much with these June official visits. And I think that's a great point that you make. Your commits, your current players are going to be your best recruiters. And nowadays, just with the way the calendar has moved forward, kids are committing so much earlier. So to get those guys in the boat, because they want to commit before their season starts, so they can, like your coaches, focus on the football season.
Right.
So that's huge. And it definitely probably helps teams up in the Big Ten up north a little more, than when they were forced to. I remember when I was coaching at Minnesota, like we would bring kids from Florida, it'd be -20 out. And, we're like trying to figure out ways to make sure they weren't outside for too long. So, that's cool. And I love that approach. Another part of that, the summer approach, is the camps. I know you have 2 camps, a 7-on-7, I believe. And just tell me about, what approach you take with that as well.
Yeah. So the main thing, we get 10 camp dates that we're allowed to go out set by the NCAA. And so part of it, we're going to hold 2 camp dates, 2 dates to have camps, June 11th and June 16th. The 11th will just be a showcase. And then the 16th, we'll have a showcase in the morning, and then we'll host a 7-on-7 in the evening. And so I think part of that, so, altogether, Clint will have about 3 total camps, you can call it, on our campus. But part of that is we want to give our community and our state kind of several opportunities to come down, right? Camps, June is a busy time for all high school players. And so they want to showcase their ability into several different areas and several different schools. And so we just want to give multiple opportunities for them to come down and do that for us. But I think doing that as well, we're on the really probably the cheaper end of camps in terms of cost. And so again, we're not trying to make money. We're trying to provide opportunities for kids to come down, get coached by some of the best coaches in college football, for them to see how we coach as well, right? So we'll have probably a handful of kids that we've offered scholarships to that will come on campus and get coached by our guys, so that they can say, hey, I can see myself being coached by him in college for the next 3, 4, 5 years, whatever it may be. And that's a big part as to why we want to do, a couple different camps on campus. But it's a fun time. We'll put the lights on. We'll have the music bumping. We'll get a DJ out there. We want to.
I might have to come.
It
sounds like a good time.
yeah, it'll be a blast.
So you talk about getting the 10 days. You have 2, or I don't know if that counts as 3 since you have the 7-on-7.
Just 2. Just 2.
Okay. So you get another 8 days. So you guys, I assume, coaches will be out at other camps. Will you have coaches at the mega camps and such?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's the mega camps are really huge for kids that don't want to travel a lot of places, and everyone can come in to travel to see them as well. So we will definitely be out, especially in the Midwest, because a lot of what we want to do is our foundation of recruits. We want to, have them from the Midwest. And so I think you'll see us down in the St. Louis area, the Indianapolis area, up in Chicago. And then we'll branch out to the other states that we recruit as well, and in the Floridas and the Texases. And but we'll be out there. We'll utilize all 10 days in the month of June, just to make sure that we're maximizing our potential to see all sorts of players, anywhere from 9th graders to junior college players.
Awesome. I'm sure GMAC will find a way to make it down to Fort Lauderdale camp, maybe go to FAU or something.
Sure he will.
Hey, you've given me a lot of time. I want to finish with this. I really appreciate it, man. It's great to catch up. Great to talk with you and learn more about Illinois and your approach to everything. How about this? And I'm sure this has evolved over the years since you've been there, but just about freshmen and newcomers coming on campus. What's the summer like? What's the reception like? When do you try to get them there? What's their orientation like? What's your overall approach to that? What can a kid expect who is signed with Illinois and they're finally coming out to live out that dream of playing for the Illini?
Well, a couple things, Clint. So because we play week 0 this year, we actually will start a week earlier than most teams of bringing kids on campus. So our freshmen their first day is actually June 1st. So they'll report pretty soon, about a week.
Wow.
Now there's still a handful of kids that go into middle of June, late June for school. So there's nothing we can do. But those that are done and have finished all the requirements for graduation, they'll be here in about a week. And so it's a really exciting time. It's also a really scary time, nervous time for them. This is their first time that they're going to be home away from, parents, guardians, kind of their comfort zone, and they're stepping out of their comfort zone. And so the big part of that for us, Clint, is to make sure that and we built that throughout the recruiting process and everything, is just to show them, like, hey, it's okay to be a little nervous. So it's okay to be homesick. Just talk through it with us. Like, if you're having any issues, like, just let us know, because we're all human. We all went to college. Shoot, I remember going away for camp in summer, my freshman year, and calling home after the 3rd day being like, I don't think I can do this,
Hey, I've been there, man. I get it. And I went down the street.
So it's really, really good. And the way kind of our summer is set up is that guys will be on campus for a couple of weeks until they start their classes. So I think that gives them a lot of time to not get overwhelmed too quickly, right? To kind of get settled in, to get into a routine of working out, to kind of getting in that film room, getting their bearings of what the community looks like on a day-to-day basis, what their favorite food spot's going to be, all that stuff. So that by the time when classes do start, they will be more in a rhythm, right? And so then after June ends and when August comes, they'll be like sophomores at that point. They'll feel like they've been on campus for a year, you know. So it'll be a fun 2 months for them before the rest of the community gets here, and so it'll be just exciting for these guys. And I know that moms and dads will have plenty of boxes of tissue for them on move-in day, just because I got 3 little ones, and I can't imagine in 16 years what that's going to be like for me. So
already thinking about it.
Take some notes.
Yeah, no, I love it, man. That's cool. I mean, setting that foundation, and I mean, we remember what it's like. Like I said, I went down the street, but you're meeting new guys. You're no longer the kingfish in town, like it's an adjustment. And, anything that can be done to facilitate that adjustment, not only from a football standpoint, but just mental, emotional, things are a little different nowadays than when we came up too. We didn't have Twitter and Instagram, so or Facebook even. So, well, awesome, man. I really appreciate your time, Pat. You guys can see it in the corner. There's his Twitter follow Coach Embleton, the Director of Personnel and Recruiting at Illinois. Really appreciate your time and wish you the best of luck. Coming June 1st, man. Yep. Best of luck with that adjustment, and then in the upcoming season, man. But just really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you, Clint. Really appreciate it, man.